The doorbell rang at 7:43 p.m. sharp on a Tuesday, a detail I'd never remember, except everything that followed seared the moment into my skull like a scar. I had just finished grading a stack of high school essays. The kind where every third student thinks Romeo and Juliet is about the power of hashtags. My red pen was still warm. Monica, my wife of 20 years, was in the kitchen, slicing vegetables like they owed her money. The blade against the cutting board ticked like a metronome counting down to impact. When I opened the door, I didn't expect the guy on the other side to have my chin. Tall, lean, 19 at best, and nervous like he was about to pitch a startup to a guy with no money. "Mr. Keller?" he said. "That's me," I replied. He stuck out a hand. "My name is Eli Brenner. I'm your son. You ever feel the air leave a room like someone pulled the plug on reality?" That was me, standing there with my wedding ring clicking against the brass doorknob, pretending I still knew what gravity was. Now, I've been a high school teacher long enough to keep a poker face while students tell me conspiracy theories about Shakespeare's ghost or submit essays written entirely in Comic Sans. But this was another level. "Jessica Brenner," he added. "University of Michigan. Sophomore year. You dated her for 3 weeks, then transferred." Suddenly, the name cracked open a vault I hadn't visited in 2 decades. Jess, tiny, sharp-witted, once left a note in my pocket that said, "You kiss like a poet but run like a coward." "I never knew," I muttered, feeling my knees stage a quiet protest. "She tried to tell you," he said, calmly. "You'd already left. She raised me alone. She passed last year. Cancer." Before I could summon any words worth saying, Monica stepped into the foyer, dish towel in hand. "Adam? Who's at the door?" "This is Eli," I said. "He says he's my son." The dish towel hit the floor. She looked at him, then me, and I swear something in her calcified on the spot. "A son? 20 years of marriage, and now there's a grown man on our porch calling you dad." I said the only thing I could. I didn't know. And that was the honest truth. But honesty, as I would learn soon enough, doesn't always save you. Sometimes, it's just a slower kind of drowning. Monica's fury was ice, not fire. "Get out," she said, barely above a whisper. "Pack a bag. You've got 30 minutes. I packed. But I didn't cry. And neither did she. We were past tears. We were somewhere colder. I didn't check into the motel because I had nowhere else to go. I checked in because I needed a place where the wallpaper didn't already have her fingerprints on it. Holiday Inn Express. Room 214. The same one Eli said he was staying in. I didn't knock. I didn't call. I just sat in my own room 2 doors down, staring at the ceiling and trying not to think about what Monica had said, or more precisely, what she didn't say. No questions. No hesitation. Just a verdict. She looked at me like I'd betrayed her on purpose, like I'd planned this fatherhood surprise for dramatic effect. My phone buzzed. A text from her. "Please don't come back." 9 characters, no punctuation, but more final than any argument we'd ever had. At 11:12 p.m., I caved. Walked 2 doors down and knocked. Eli answered in socks and a band t-shirt. "Hey," I said. My voice sounded like it had been living in a gravel pit. "Mind if we talk?" He stepped aside. The room smelled like vending machine snacks and shampoo. He'd unpacked nothing but a single photo, Jessica and me, 2006, smiling like we had time to burn. "You look like her," I said. He nodded. "I've heard that a lot." We talked. Not about biology or regrets. We talked about college. His. Mine. He wanted to be a paramedic. Said helping people calmed him down. The irony wasn't lost on me. "She talked about you sometimes," he said. "Said you were smart. And kind. But you didn't stick." I winced. That's probably true. Back then, I didn't know how to stay. He gave a small, crooked smile. "I get it. I didn't come here to mess things up." I looked at him. Really looked. This kid wasn't some landmine from my past. He was just looking for a father. Too bad I was in the middle of being evicted from the role by the woman I thought I'd spend forever with. Back in my own room, I finally cried. Not the sobbing kind. Just the silent, leaking kind. The kind where your chest doesn't heave, but your soul takes a knee. I wasn't mourning a son I never knew I had. I was mourning the woman I thought would weather anything with me, and realizing she had just walked away like she was closing a window before a storm. The next morning, I did what any emotionally shell-shocked man with nowhere to go and too many emotions to process would do. I went to the used bookstore on 5th. It was quiet there. Smelled like old paper and better decisions. The owner, a retired English teacher named Marla, gave me a look that said, "You okay?" but politely didn't ask. I grabbed a seat near the travel memoirs and stared at the cover of a book about walking through Spain, wondering how far I'd have to walk to feel like myself again. That's when she walked in. No, not Monica. Her. The woman with the soft scarf, bright eyes, and a smile that landed like a warm hand on my frayed nerves. She was talking to the clerk, laughing at something he said. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but when you're sitting in silence, everything sounds like a conversation meant for you. Do you have anything that feels like starting over but without the cheesy self-help language? She asked. The clerk pointed to the memoirs. That's how she ended up 3 feet from me. She looked at the book in my hand. That one's good, she said, without prompting. Ends with him realizing the real destination is himself. Typical, but still decent. I blinked. Spoilers. She smiled. You look like you needed a shortcut. I laughed. First time in 2 days. Yeah. You ever get told your life's falling apart by a 19-year-old claiming to be your kid, and then get kicked out by your wife within the same 15-minute window? She paused, tilting her head. Not exactly, but I've had lunch with my ex and his new girlfriend. Does that count? We shared a look. That kind of mutual damage assessment you only get from people who've walked through different fires, but still recognize the burn marks. I'm Lauren, she said. Adam. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just nodded slowly, like maybe she already knew I wasn't. When she left, she handed me a book. This helped once. Might not fix anything, but it makes the silence feel less loud. I looked down. A novel. Something poetic. When I opened it later that night, I found a napkin inside with her number scribbled in the corner. I didn't text her. Not yet. That would come later. First, I had to return to my house. Not because I thought Monica would forgive me, but because I had forgotten my father's watch, the only thing of value I owned that wasn't a reminder of failure. And because the door being locked wouldn't stop me from realizing something had shifted in that home. Something fundamental. I didn't expect to see Monica when I returned. I just wanted the watch. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The kind of overcast that made the whole street look like it had been dipped in dust. I parked one house down and walked like I didn't recognize the place, like it wasn't the same house where I once fixed a garbage disposal with a butter knife and a lot of misplaced confidence. The key still worked. That surprised me. She hadn't changed the locks. Yet, inside was quiet, unnervingly so. The kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, it comes from retreat. The furniture looked exactly the same, but the air felt edited. Like someone had gone through with an eraser and removed all the us from the picture. No wedding photo on the hallway table. No pair of my slippers by the door. Even the smell had changed. Gone was the faint cinnamon scent from the plug-in diffuser she insisted on. Now it smelled like lemon disinfectant and goodbye. I walked upstairs. Didn't rush. Didn't tiptoe either. And there it was on the dresser, right where I left it every night for 20 years, my father's watch. A hand-me-down in the truest sense. He wore it while fixing up our old Pontiac. I wore it while teaching bored teenagers about metaphors. I picked it up, fastened it around my wrist like armor. And that's when I heard the garage door. At first, I froze. Then I straightened. I had every right to be here. Monica entered through the kitchen, keys in hand, sunglasses on her head. She didn't see me right away. She was talking. To someone. Laughing, even. The kind of casual laugh people save for restaurants and car rides. Then I heard him. A man's voice. Deeper than mine. Not familiar, but not cautious either. I didn't move. I just listened. Her voice softened. We won't be long. He moved out, but I don't know if he's been back since. He responded, something low. Then a kiss. It wasn't loud, but I heard it. You always know that sound when it's no longer yours. I stepped out of the bedroom and cleared my throat. Monica froze. He didn't. He just turned, slow, and looked at me like I was the interruption. We all stood there for a beat. Her, trying to look composed. Him, sizing me up. Me, already beyond the point of being surprised. Forgot something, I said, raising my wrist. Didn't think it needed a calendar appointment. Monica opened her mouth, but whatever speech she'd been preparing evaporated. Her cheeks flushed, not with guilt, but with annoyance. Like my presence was an inconvenience to her new narrative. This is John, she said eventually. Of course he was. He looked like a John. Broad-shouldered, good teeth, that perma-confident posture of a man who probably played intramural rugby and says things like, my guy, at work. I nodded. Nice house. I helped pick it out. He had the decency not to say anything. I'll be out in a second, I added. I walked past them, no eye contact, and grabbed the second thing I came for, the photo album from the closet shelf. The one Monica said was too analog to matter. But it mattered. It held the years before we started drifting, before life became a routine of dinner TV and unmet expectations. When I turned to leave, she finally spoke. You could have texted. You could have waited. Her jaw clenched. But she didn't answer. Outside, I didn't slam the door. I didn't peel out of the driveway. I just walked back to the car with the calm of someone who's already burned to the nerve endings. That night, I sat in the motel with the photo album open on the bed. Page after page of smiles that once meant something. A Halloween where we dressed up as Mulder and Scully. A camping trip where she fell into the river and laughed for 20 minutes straight. Her eyes, when she still looked at me like I was the answer to the question she hadn't yet asked. I flipped to the last page and found a note she wrote during our second year. You're the calm in my chaos. Promise me we'll never let go of this. I closed the album slowly. Promises are funny things. They don't snap. They stretch until you wake up one day and realize they're not holding anything together anymore. The next morning, I texted Lauren. Coffee. She responded with one word, always. The coffee shop was one of those places where everything was reclaimed with an irony. Light jazz, overpriced muffins, and baristas who looked like they read French philosophy on their smoke breaks. I liked it immediately. Lauren was already there when I walked in, same scarf from the bookstore, same unreadable smile. She didn't wave, just raised an eyebrow as I approached. You look like you didn't sleep. I didn't. She slid a coffee across the table. Black. No sugar. The way I drink it. I hadn't told her that. So she said, what's the fallout? I told her. Not everything. Just the highlights, the motel, the sun, the walk into my house like a ghost, and John, the intruder who walked into my life like it was his turn in the rotation. She didn't gasp or offer sympathy. She just nodded. People move on fast when they were already gone before the end. I stared into my coffee. She's already with him. Of course she is. You said that pretty casually. Because people don't break your heart all at once, Adam. They chip away. Until one day, they've carved themselves a door. I sat back. And what happens when I walk through it first? She gave a soft laugh. Then they get mad. Because you ruined their timing. We talked for an hour. About anything but Monica. About books. Her failed engagement. My classroom horror stories. It was strange having a conversation where I wasn't walking on eggshells or measuring the silence between words. Before I left, she leaned forward. I like talking to you. But don't mistake that for rescue. I nodded. I don't need rescue. Good. Because you're still bleeding. You just got good at hiding it. Back at the motel, I stared at the ceiling, her words echoing louder than they had any right to. She was right. I wasn't healed. I was numb. And the difference was dangerous. That night, Eli called. I got the test results. I sat up. My chest tightened. And, you're my dad. 3 words. Not dramatic. Not accusatory. Just a statement of fact that tied me to something permanent. I don't know what to do with that, I said honestly. You don't have to do anything, he replied. But I wanted you to know I'm not here to make things worse. I hesitated. You didn't. Monica did. There was a pause. I'm sorry for your marriage. Yeah, me too. Turns out it wasn't built to withstand a truth. Eli didn't argue. Just said, if you want to talk sometime about anything, I'll be around. We hung up. And for the first time in days, I felt something close to steady. Until the next morning. The motel clerk knocked on my door with a pale face and trembling hands. Sir, there's something I think you need to see. She handed me a folded piece of paper. It had been slipped under the front desk overnight. My name was scrawled on the outside in handwriting I knew all too well. Inside, 4 words. You should be careful. No signature. No context. But the chill that ran down my spine didn't care. Monica didn't write it. The loops were wrong. The pressure was uneven. But someone knew where I was. And they wanted me afraid. I called Lauren. I need a second opinion. And maybe a little perspective that doesn't come in a styrofoam cup. She didn't ask questions. Just gave me an address. It was a bookstore, of course. We met in the back corner. No coffee. Just quiet. I showed her the note. She read it once, then again. Do you think it's her? I asked. No, she said flatly. She doesn't warn. She reacts. John. Too smug. I exhaled. Then who? Lauren studied me for a long beat. Adam. Is there anyone else in your life you've underestimated? The question hit harder than I expected. I thought about Monica's friends. Her sister. A student from years back who once accused me of playing favorites in front of the school board. The time I wrote a harsh letter about a district policy and got blacklisted from a promotion. I had enemies, sure, but none of them felt like this. Lauren's voice broke the silence. This is intimidation, not anger. And that's supposed to make me feel better? She smirked. Not really, but it means someone's afraid of what you might do next. I stared at the note again. The handwriting, the threat, the implication. And for the first time since Monica kicked me out, something lit inside me. Not revenge. Not yet. But clarity. If someone was scared I'd retaliate, maybe it was time I gave them a reason. It's amazing what the human brain can do when it stops trusting anyone. I spent that night reading the note again and again like it might rearrange itself into something less ominous. But every time I unfolded it, those 4 words stared back like a dare. You should be careful. It wasn't a threat. Not directly. That's what made it worse. It was a whisper left behind like a landmine. And someone wanted me walking circles around it. I went to Eli first. Did you tell anyone where I'm staying? He looked up from his takeout noodles, brows furrowed. No, I wouldn't. Why? I handed him the note. He read it and swallowed hard. This is creepy. Yeah, I said flatly. That's the general consensus. Do you think it's Mom? My mom. I shook my head. She's not here to play ghost games. Eli looked genuinely shaken. You think it's Monica? No, I said after a pause. But I think it has to do with her. He leaned forward. What are you going to do? The thing was, I didn't know yet. But something had shifted. This wasn't about Monica anymore. This was about everything I hadn't seen. The next day, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to Monica's work. Not to confront her. Not to make a scene. Just to observe. Her office was downtown. 3rd floor, glass windows, nameplate outside the door. Monica Keller, Regional Development Manager. The title looked as hollow as our wedding vows in hindsight. I sat across the street at a coffee shop with a view of her building. I told myself it was research. Reconnaissance. Whatever word made me feel less like the kind of man who had lost everything and didn't know how to get it back. At 4:12 p.m., she exited with John. They weren't holding hands, but they weren't not holding hands either. The kind of close that's designed to say everything while technically meaning nothing. They got into his SUV, shiny, dark, expensive. The kind of vehicle that announces power without using a megaphone. I followed them. Not closely. Not carelessly either. 3 turns and a 20-minute drive later, they pulled into a gated community. One of those places where the street names are poetic lies, Whispering Pines, Tranquil Lake, Serendipity Court. They stopped at a red brick colonial with white shutters and a mailbox shaped like a miniature barn. She got out first. John lingered. She laughed, shoulders shaking, head tossed back. The way she used to laugh with me. Then he leaned in and kissed her. No hesitation. No secrecy. Just comfort. I didn't flinch. I didn't even blink. But something in my chest closed like a book. This wasn't some rebound. This was a life she'd already started building without me. And she wasn't just playing house. She'd moved in. Back at the motel, I spread everything out on the bed like a detective in a TV drama. The note. Printouts of emails she'd sent me in the months before this, passive-aggressive jabs about being distant, about not trying hard enough. A photo of the house I snapped with my phone. And one thing I hadn't shown anyone. A flash drive. I'd copied files off our shared computer the night she kicked me out. Just in case. At the time, it felt like a desperate backup plan. Now it felt prophetic. I clicked through the folders. Old receipts. Vacation photos. Budget spreadsheets. Then a folder called Q4 Presentation Drafts. Inside, tucked between file names about sales strategies and regional growth, was a document titled simply, Private, do not open. Of course I opened it. It was a letter. Unsent. Unfinished. Addressed to no one. But meant for someone. I keep thinking if I leave him slowly enough, he won't notice. Is that cruel? Maybe. But he's always been asleep at the wheel. And I'm tired of driving for 2. John makes me feel like I'm not invisible. And that's all I've wanted for years. It wasn't signed. But it didn't have to be. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was logistical. Strategic. She'd been planning my removal like a corporate layoff. And suddenly, the note made sense. Someone knew she'd crossed lines. Someone wanted to make sure I didn't react poorly. Or maybe they hoped I would. But the person who left that note didn't know me at all. I don't explode. I erode. Quietly. Consistently. Like a river changing the shape of the canyon that tried to contain it. At midnight, I drove. No destination. Just open road and static on the radio. I ended up at the lake. The one Monica used to love before life got too busy to notice sunsets. I sat on a bench with my father's watch cold against my wrist and the flash drive in my jacket pocket like a loaded question. Lauren called. I answered without thinking. Couldn't sleep? She asked. Didn't want to. There was a pause. Then she said, You sound like you're standing on the edge of something. I am. Planning to jump? No, I said. Planning to build something. Out of what? I looked at the lake. Reflections. Ripples. Ruins. Whatever's left. I wasn't built for revenge. I taught English, for crying out loud. But betrayal has a way of reshuffling your DNA. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't consult your moral compass. It just drops a match in your chest and watches what you do with the fire. That morning, I did something I'd never done before. I called a lawyer. Not for a divorce. Not yet. I needed information, not outcomes. The office was downtown, 4 floors above a yogurt shop and 2 beneath a dentist who clearly didn't believe in noise reduction. My appointment was with a woman named Clara. She had sharp glasses and sharper questions. Married 20 years? She asked, typing with machine gun rhythm. 21 in October. Any children? 1. Recently introduced. She stopped typing. I'm sorry. It's complicated. Understood. She didn't ask if I still loved Monica. Lawyers never ask that. What they want to know is what you own, what you want to keep, and how much salt you're planning to pour behind you when you walk. I asked about the house, about what counts as marital property, about whether emotional infidelity could affect settlement decisions. Clara was professional, blunt. Emotion doesn't win court cases. Documentation does. I smiled. You'll love this. I handed her the flash drive. That afternoon, I called Monica. Not to argue, not to confess what I'd seen. I just said, we need to talk. She hesitated. About what? The legal stuff. Pause. Another pause. Then, fine. My place. 7. Her place. Her new house with John. It was the first time she didn't even flinch at the suggestion that it wasn't ours. I didn't wear cologne. I didn't shave. But I showed up clean, steady, and 1 step ahead. John wasn't there. Good. I didn't want to make this a triangle. Monica opened the door in leggings and an oversized sweater that looked like it belonged to someone else. Probably did. We sat in her kitchen. It looked like something from a home decor blog, gleaming counters, brushed gold handles, not a trace of the life we built. Just curated emptiness. You said legal? She asked. Yeah. I pulled out a manila envelope and slid it across the table. Preliminary paperwork. No drama. Just clarity. She didn't touch it. Instead, she leaned back and crossed her arms. So this is it. I think it was it, a while ago. We just didn't call it. She didn't argue. That hurt more than I expected. I'm not trying to punish you, I said. I'm trying to close a door without slamming it. You already left, she replied. This is just your paperwork catching up. That stung, but I didn't let it show. Your new house is nice, I added casually. Her eyes flicked. Just briefly. Then she said, You followed me. I didn't blink. I noticed things. You always notice things. That was the problem? No, I said evenly. The problem was you didn't think I ever would. Silence. Then, without meeting my eyes, she said, Do you want the rest of your stuff? I smiled, but it didn't reach anything. I already took what mattered. Back at the motel, I found an envelope taped to my door. Same handwriting. Same chill down my spine. This time, 5 words. Stop digging. Or else. And just like that, the tone changed. It wasn't a whisper anymore. It was a line in the sand. I didn't bring the note to Lauren. Not this time. I brought it to Clara. She read it twice, then looked at me. You want a restraining order? I shook my head. No. I want leverage. She raised an eyebrow. So I told her everything. About the note. About the second house. About the letter Monica wrote but never sent. Clara didn't look surprised. You know what the smartest thing in the world is? She asked. Enlighten me. Being underestimated by people who think they're smarter than you. I liked her. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to Monica. To Eli. I told him the truth. About everything. Not the cleaned up version. The full, jagged, unedited cut. Then I wrote another letter. One I didn't sign. It had 1 line. Your house isn't as private as you think. I mailed it. No return address. Just a stamp, a warning, and enough quiet threat to put someone on edge. Because if someone was going to play games in the dark, They needed to know I had a flashlight now. The drill was simple: gather evidence, draw lines, change behaviors. By morning, I had subpoenas in hand: bank statements for Monica, property records, the flash drive's documents. Clara told me to move fast. Momentum is a lawyer's best friend. I knew Monica had one weakness: appearances. She wasn't loud, but she liked control. Facts undercut that. So I quietly leaked selective details about her infidelity to the board of her firm. No names, just an internal memo flagged potential conflict of interest. I watched as office gossip drifted toward her. I saw the shift in her posture during video calls. Her shoulders dropped, eyes flicked. She thought she was private, but I'd found the traps in her polished walls. At home, I blocked my number and used a burner phone. I called 2 of her closest friends individually, just to get timelines and corroborate her new relationship. Those calls fueled a dossier I kept in a locked motel safe, just under the mattress. One night, the burner pinged with a photo she'd sent John. Another weekend getaway. Paradise, the message read. I saved it. A visual that mattered more when placed beside the snapshots of our own marriage. Christmas mornings, graduations, old dinners illuminated by a single candle. The contrast felt like evidence. And the notes continued. No messages this time. Just a small envelope on the motel desk. I see you. Clara reviewed everything and nodded. Ready to talk settlement? What about the notes? The guy who's been warning me off. I asked quietly. She leaned forward. Those don't help unless someone admits to sending them, or we can tie them to her. I thought of the flash drive document, her unsent letter. It showed intent, resentment, maybe even malice. That's leverage. And pressuring her, indirectly via her company and reputation. That's leverage, too. I drafted my own note. This one mailed with a tracking receipt. Monica, leave town for a week. Vacation. Tell John you're booked through next Friday. Stay away from me. For his sake as much as yours. Otherwise the board sees everything. Hey, I didn't sign it. But I didn't have to. Then I waited. The next day, I got an email from HR at her firm. We need you at 10 a.m. Wednesday. All pertinent documents in your possession. No signature. No context. She knew. Wednesday morning, the sky was low and gray, like weather matched to mood. I sat in a cafe 2 blocks from her office. Clara was beside me, reviewing an updated docket. My phone vibrated. No number, just a single word. Gone. At first I thought she'd left town as requested. Then another message. Called in sick. Won't be in today. I didn't relax. I drank my coffee slowly, called Clara. She spoke quietly. They're prepping disciplinary materials, including proof of your marriage documents and photos on her firm's network. They want her to resign before board confrontation. So, I exhaled. She walks away quietly. And you get what you want, Clara finished. Divorce, assets, no drama. Except, I didn't want no drama. I wanted conclusion. I wanted her to look me in the eye and know who won. Invisible victories never healed hearts. The cafe door opened, and she walked. Monica, in business casual, face drained of color. She paused, saw me, took a step back, then marched forward. She sat, closed her eyes. I got your note. Did it work? I asked. She shook her head. They offered a leave of absence, not a resignation. They don't want public scandal. Then it's up to us, I said. You can resign, or we can make headlines. Her eyes narrowed. You're threatening me. Again. Information isn't a threat. It's leverage. She stared at me. This version of Monica, fractured but defiant, was someone I didn't know anymore. Or maybe I never truly knew her. She exhaled. I never wanted it to end like this. Neither did I said softly. But 15-minute parenting revelations, new houses, whispered threats, that's not a marriage. It's a slow-motion demolition. She swallowed. For a moment, I thought I saw the woman I once knew. Then she nodded. Fine, she said. I'll leave. I'll take a package. But I'm not signing a non-disparagement clause. I smiled. Neither am I. At that, she reached inside her bag and pulled out an envelope. Then you won't need this. She slid the unsent letter across the table, her admission of planning my erasure. Original copy. I stared at it. Then back at her. Silence. I picked it up, touched the paper gently, careful, as if it were fragile. This seals it, I said. Justice, in its own quiet way. She stood, straightened her jacket. Our courtship, long since expired, had been replaced by a legal détente. Not romance. Not hatred. Just a shared understanding that two paths diverged, and one took her away. She paused at the door. Take care of yourself, Adam. Without malice. Without warmth. Just closure. I watched her walk away, turn the corner, disappear. I closed my eyes. No screams. No violence. Just a quiet explosion of everything that had been bottled up. The files, the notes, the trips, the legal papers, they combusted and scattered. But I stood firm. I'd won. Not in fury or blood, but in truth. And sometimes, in the aftermath of betrayal, that's all the revenge you need.